Hey there, welcome to Lesson 12 of Theme 2 GCSE Geography. So what we're going to move on to for the last element of this theme is comparing two global cities. So a global city, if you remember, is a city that is super interconnected on lots of different levels through sharing people, sharing information, sharing money, and so forth. So we're going to look at Cardiff first off, and then later on in a couple of lessons' time compare it with Mumbai. What we're going to look at today is socio-economic patterns in Cardiff. Socio coming from the word social, economic, as you know, obviously meaning jobs and money. We're going to look for a link between where the groups of people are in Cardiff. So where are your ethnic minorities? What area of Cardiff do they mostly live in? And then look to see if there is a link with where the ethnic minorities are and where the more or less well-off areas of Cardiff are. We're going to construct a choropleth map to do that. If you remember, a choropleth map uses colour to indicate the most to the least of something. So the darkest colours will be for the area with the most of something through a sliding scale to the lightest colour for the areas with the least of something. We'll look for patterns between the two choropleth maps and then we'll identify and explain these links if we can. So pause the video here a moment, go ahead and write down today's title, please. Okay, so if you look at the handout that goes with this lesson underneath the PowerPoint, you'll see that there is a map that looks like this that goes with it. I would like you to cut it and stick it down and title it Distribution of Deprivation Across Cardiff. So just to give us our bearings, this area that we're looking at here, if I come out of the slideshow a second and go into Google Earth, okay, so there's the Gower Peninsula. Pontarlice is here. If you came down the M4 past Swansea, all the way past Port Talbot, all the way to Cardiff, if we zoom in on Cardiff a little, you can see the shape of the urban area that actually makes up Cardiff. So we're this area here, south of the M4, between the M4 and the Bristol Channel. Okay, so it's that area there that we're looking at on this choropleth map. We're using the Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation ranking system. So deprivation means you have to go without something. So in this case, what it's looking at is the least deprived areas. So basically, you've got plenty of money, are in blue. And it's a sliding scale through to the dark red areas are the most deprived. They have the least money. So there's your area of Cardiff. So on Google Earth that we were just looking at, the M4 kind of runs past here, through Newport and off towards Bristol off the map here. So these are all the wards, all the areas of Cardiff. Which are the most deprived areas? Use your compass directions. Yeah, if we were to kind of split Cardiff down the middle into west and east, the majority of deprivation is on the eastern side. Okay, there's a patch there, but the majority is on the eastern side. And if we split it again across the middle, but along rather than down, most of the north is blue. Most of. It's the south that has the majority of the red in it. So the most deprived areas of Cardiff are the south and southeast. Why do you think this is? Historically, why is the area next to the Bristol Channel now the most deprived? Why does it not have any money anymore? What has happened? Yeah, this is where the docks were. Okay, so in the early 1900s through to kind of the mid-1950s, 60s, even a little bit later, the docks were thriving. Everyone was moving to Cardiff to take advantage of the job opportunities in the docks. People were coming from all over the world. But of course, as we know, we then ran out of coal, heavy industry in Wales has shut down, and that would mean that all of these people in this dock area here that relied on the docks for money now have no money because there's no docks anymore. The docks shut down. And this has left this area really deprived, a legacy of deprivation even up till today. So the most deprived areas of Cardiff are the south and southeast. This is because when heavy industry shut down in the docks in these areas, everyone lost their jobs, equals high levels of unemployment, equals people don't have any money, high levels of deprivation. Conversely, the areas of Cardiff with the least deprivation are the north and the west. It's linked to what we were talking about with the M4 running past here. If you can get on the motorway, You can hop over to Bristol, just over the bridge. That's within commuting distance. Loads of really high-end jobs there. You can hop west down to Swansea as well. Lots of high-end jobs on offer down in our city too. It's called the M4 corridor. You can get access to more jobs in higher sectors of employment like tertiary and quaternary, and if you're a business, you can also trade more easily along that M4 corridor. So the least deprived, more affluent, that means rich areas of Cardiff, are the north and the west. This is because they're closer to the M4 corridor, which means easier trade if you're a business equals more profit, and easier access to high-level jobs in large cities such as Bristol and Swansea. And of course, they're going to pay higher salaries. So pause the video here a moment, re-listen to what I've just explained if you need to, and basically cut and stick the map, put the subheading, and copy and complete those sentences, please. Okay, so this is what we call an economic indicator map. We're looking purely at which areas of Cardiff do people make the most money in. The south and southeast is super deprived, less money. North and the west is less deprived. People there are making more money. What we're going to do is take this Cardiff map and compare it with one that we're going to create from scratch together. That is a social map, because remember the title is Socio-Economic patterns across Cardiff. So this is the economic side of things. We're now going to create the social side of things by looking at the ethnic minority areas of Cardiff. An ethnic minority is a population of people that is not typically white British, and they are in the minority in the area that they live in, as in they might be a lower percentage of the population, an ethnic minority. Where did they come from and why? So, in the handout that goes with this lesson, there is a choropleth map that we're going to colour in together. Global cities like Cardiff have quite high levels of ethnic minority populations living there because, as we've sort of touched upon, through the 1800s, when the Industrial Revolution was at its peak, and into the early 1900s and 1940s and 1950s post-World War II, lots of people were moving to Cardiff to take advantage of all the opportunities that were on offer in the docks and the industry that was going on. It was the same in Swansea. During the Industrial Revolution, the copper works in Swansea, we had the largest copper works in the world at one point. So across South Wales, Cardiff included, there's lots of opportunities and people came from all over the world in search of work. In Cardiff's case, many of these people settled in areas like Butte Town, Adamstown, in the dock areas when coal exports were at their peak. Of course, following on from that, we know that coal exports went into decline later on, but around that time there was also a lot of civil wars breaking out in the Middle East, in sort of Western Asia, countries like Pakistan and now Syria, a lot of civil wars going on in people's home countries through the early 1990s. So people were forced to leave their country. They were refugees. It was not safe for them to stay there. And they came to Britain seeking safety, seeking asylum. So a combination of people coming in looking for jobs and people coming in looking for safety. Today, it's estimated that there's over 15,000 migrants from 50 different countries now living in Cardiff. And what that tends to create, when people move into a country that's unfamiliar to them, it's safety in numbers. The phrase birds of a feather flock together. You look for people that are similar to you because that makes you feel safe. And so all the Jewish people in an area might sort of settle in the same place and set up their own kosher shops, their own synagogues, their own community. A lot of people that practice Islam, Muslims, might set up their own halal butchers and their own mosques in an area. And so what tends to happen is you get people from different ethnic backgrounds congregating in communities all together. So let's have a look and see if that's true of Cardiff. Are the ethnic minority populations in particular areas? You've got this blank choropleth map in your handout. You've also got a set of data in your handout. Whoop, let me go back. Okay, you've got a set of data that tells you all of the information you need to colour this choropleth map. Where's my arrow gone? Okay, let me exit this a second. If I open the data that you need in here, okay. So That's the choropleth map we've already stuck in. This is the one we're going to colour in together. And this is the information you need to colour it. Now don't freak out, it looks a little bit complex, but it's really not. The ward number, this column tells you the area on the map. So number 1 is Adamsdown. So on the map, number 1 is Adamsdown. Okay, the numbers on the map do not tell you the colour. It's this column that tells you the colour. Okay, so in Adamsdown, of the people living there, 13.8% of the population in Adamsdown are of ethnic minority origin. So all you've got to do is look at your key. 13.8, which category does that fall into? It's more than 8. The important thing when colouring your key is you use lightest to darkest, remember. So if I was you, for example, leave less than 1% of the population is white. 1 to 1.9 could be a really light blue. 2 to 3.9 could be a medium blue. 4 to 7.9 could be a dark blue. And more than 8 could be black. You actually only need one blue colour. Press really light, medium and hard pressure. So create your key and then use that key along with these numbers to help you colour those places on the map in the correct colour. All right, so for example, Fairwater is number 9 on the map. 4.3% of the population living there are ethnic minority. So number 9 on the map is Fairwater. 4.3 falls in that category. So in my colour coding, I would colour number 9 dark blue. All right, so cut and stick your choropleth map. Select your colour key. It could be light, medium and dark red, light, medium and dark green, and a black, your choice. And use the data on the handout to colour in this choropleth map, and it will show you the spread, the distribution of ethnic minorities across Cardiff. So pause the video here a minute and go and do that, please. Okay, so you might have cheated because you could see that I had it on the next slide when I messed up trying to flick between my screens. So this is what your choropleth map will look like roughly. Apologies if one or two of my colours are out of place. I did it quite rushed in class. So we're going to describe the distribution first. Describe, remember, means just say what you see. So the areas with the highest percentage population from ethnic minority backgrounds are, again, use your compass directions. Where are your dark areas? Okay. So there's not much dark in the north. The majority of the dark areas are in the south. Only one kind of spills over into the north, really. And if you split it down the middle that way, the majority tend to be on this side too. So again, we've got the area with the highest percentage population from ethnic backgrounds are the south and southeast. The ethnic population in Cardiff grew because people came in looking for jobs during the Industrial Revolution, and they came in looking for safety during civil wars in the 1990s. They are found in these small concentrated communities because people tend to live with people that are similar to them. So the Jewish people would find other people that practice Judaism. Muslims would find other people that practice Islam. And so you set up your own communities. The British do it as well. If you go to Cyprus or Spain, you'll find communities of British people, and there'll be an Irish pub, there'll be greasy spoons that serve Sunday roast carveries, that serve full English breakfasts. We do it as well. We've done it a lot in Australia and in New Zealand. So they're found in these small concentrated communities because people that speak the same language and share the same culture, share the same food, share the same religion, tend to group together. So pause the video here a moment, make sure this map is titled using the title from the previous page, coloured, and copy and complete these sentences. Re-listen to what I've just said if you need to. Okay, so when we take a look at them side by side, what do you notice? So this one is which areas have the least and most money. This one is which areas have the least and most ethnic communities. If you put one map over the top of the other, is there any link here? Yes, there absolutely is, isn't there? More ethnic minorities, high level of deprivation. Most ethnic minority, high level of deprivation. So So there's clearly a link here between, if you're from an ethnic minority background, if you are an immigrant, you're poor. You are more deprived. Why might this be? Okay. What tends to happen is everyone came into Britain, into Cardiff, in search of jobs. And when the docks shut down, because of the way that ethnic minority communities tend to group together, lack of education, lack of skills, and lack of language meant that when the docks shut down, they were unable to access any of the other jobs on offer in any of the other sectors. And so they became stuck in the unemployment category, in the most deprived category. So we can notice between the two maps that the areas with the highest ethnic minority population are also the areas with the highest deprivation. This is because the immigrants came into Britain, into Cardiff, in search of work in the docks. And when the docks closed, they were left unemployed with no money. What's the solution to being unemployed with no money? Get a new job and earn more money. But they weren't able to access the other jobs on offer in the area because of language barriers, lack of education. If you've been working in the docks for years and years and years, you're a manual labourer. You haven't been to school for years. The country you came from, you probably actually barely went to school, could barely read and write. So lack of language, lack of education, and other cultural barriers make it difficult for you to access another job. So you're stuck in low-income, unemployed, deprived areas. So copy and complete the link and explanation between the two maps. And the sad thing is that this link is actually really difficult to break. It's a very difficult cycle to break. Ultimately, you need to upskill the ethnic minority population so they can access higher level jobs now that the industry has shut. But like we mentioned before, with globalization, there's quite often a lot of racial tension. You often hear the phrase, immigrants coming in stealing our jobs. There's a lot of negativity still towards immigrants, regardless of the fact that they've just spent years and years and years working really hard, generation after generation, in our heavy industry to power our country and our engineering developments. The vast majority of immigrants are exceptionally hardworking, just like the vast majority of British people are. And yet there's still this stigma that they come in and they steal our jobs. There's still this stigma that, they keep themselves to themselves and we don't know what they're doing and they've got this community thing and that community thing. And, it's really sad. And it stems from lack of understanding, really. But it does reinforce the stigma and it does reinforce this local difference in development, really, even within a single global city like Cardiff. So that marks the end of lesson 12. Well done. What we're going to look at next lesson is a little bit more detail on the rise and fall and regeneration of Cardiff. So as we've touched on today, lots of people came in looking for jobs. Industry was booming. The coal industry was at its peak. Then the coal industry shut down. Coal exports were no more in South Wales. What impact did that on Cardiff? And what is Cardiff trying to do to recover sustainably? So that's what we'll look at next. If you have any issues, give me an email, gleasona@hookcumry.net. Otherwise, I'll see you soon for lesson 13.